I make you nervous. A tragedy, I'm a beautiful disaster. A reckoning, you wonder how I got this way. You think I'm someone to be saved, someone to clean up and tame. Oh, some things never change, never change. Oh, you think I would look pretty on your arm once you cover up my bruises and battle scars, but it always ends the same. Can't bear the things I've had to face. Got you crying on your knees in pain. Oh, some things never change, never change. Oh, you will break your back to make me feel again. Suffocate to make me breathe again. Lose your mind from endless pain. Some things never change, never change. Oh, redemption never came. I stopped asking for forgiveness, cause you should know only fools tread where the angels fear to go, but you keep trying to get too close. Save myself by turning into stone. So save your judgment cause you just don't know. But some things never change, never change. Oh, they say I should feel guilty and change my ways, leaving crumpled bodies in my wake. Swear I didn't mean to make them break. Swear I didn't mean to make them break. But they're so delicate and so mundane, and they keep coming like a moth to a flame. Oh, some things never change, never change. You'll break your back to make me feel again. Suffocate to make me breathe again. Lose your mind from endless pain. Some things never change, never change. Oh, redemption never came. Seeing monsters at your window. No, you can't sleep, you pretend though. You don't have to play the hero, cause I got you like you got me. When the earth shakes, when the bombs scream, until our last breath, every heartbeat. You know I'll come running.
Good evening and welcome everybody, this is Obi-Wan Pez for Simplex Pachinko, and thank you to Famished for the immediate redeem. Dost thou in hoist? Yeah, we reorganized a little, well, took all the clutter out, moved everything around a little bit, because our rental company's coming over tomorrow. Hey Jessu, how's it going? So they're going to take a look around the house, make sure that everything's, you know, in working condition, not completely and utterly broken, which, you know, generally speaking, we don't break things. And my monitor computer is currently not showing the stream. That's fun. Oh. Hey Zach, how's it going? I was feeling really tired like 10 minutes ago, and here I go, you know? Absolutely white belt form. You guys get me whipped into shape here. Down to 15s. Yeah, it does that. Existence. Whoa. That's the thing about me. Like, as soon as I start getting warmed up a little bit, I'm good. But yeah, I was just about ready to fall asleep, have a little nap before stream. But it was already 10. I figured, I probably should do something. Too tired for dad jokes? Oh man. That's rough. Alrighty. So, white belt form, absolutely. I'll do, maybe all 3 of them, Zach. They're quite repetitive. So, as the stream title says, we are aligning with 8-Bit D, L-Bell, and Coco Confession. 3 wonderful ladies over doing mostly game streams. I think Ellie is doing some, well, it says special event, so it just might be the whole charity stream with a giveaway or something like that. But so Game On to End Lupus is the stream, or is the charity title. It is shortened to GOtEL, and there are 160, I think, streamers who have signed up for some sort of QR code like that in order to receive donations from anybody who might want to get in on that. So if anyone is interested, and you have the means, please feel free to use my QR code, or if you want, like, if you want something, a lot of people are also giving stuff away. I don't have that, so there is the possibility that at some point we might be able to get, during this month, a like stream key, or game keys, something like that. So I'm not holding my breath for it, but it is possible that we might be able to get some. And if that's the case, they will be raffled off if we manage to get some. GOtEL is running until the end of the month. That is May 31st. I will be off, let's see, this Friday and next Monday, because I'm going to go back to New England. We're having the funeral for my grandfather and his sister. So, yeah, things are a little busy, but figured it was a good time to get back together. And my spouse realized, hey, wait, when was the last time that all 4 of you, meaning our immediate family, was together? And we thought about it, and yeah, the last time that all 4 of us were together was my brother's graduation, which was 18 years ago. So we've seen, groups of each other and things like that, and he came out to see us in Maryland. But yeah, we have not, the 4 of us, been together for 18 years. So that was kind of an interesting realization. Righto. So, Tego 1 is the first white belt form you learn in Tang Soo Do Karate. And basically, the form is a bunch of down blocks where you're going to kind of wrap your arms like this. The one that is going to be blocking is up by your head. And then as you take a step, you snap it into place, and that is a down block. And the other move that we use in Tego 1 is a punch. So you take the one that is on your hip, and as you step forward, snap that into place as well. So we're trying to, as much as we can, use the momentum of your body and also use your hips to like get things into place. So the hips are mostly coming back as we're moving forward, and then as we get toward this area, we're reaching forward a little bit, getting kind of in place, but again, our hips are like turned so that the hand is back a little bit. And then as we push down through the floor into our heel, the force gets multiplied up through our muscles to the knee, to the hip, to the back, well, hit just above the hip, and then it kind of like goes across your back to the shoulder, to your elbow, to your fist. And so it kind of, I'm not like, you know, I was on the borderline of black belt, but that's really where the journey begins. So as we do this, we snap the force up from the floor all the way up through our body, and it ends up multiplying all those forces and punching it straight out through your arm. And then the arm that was down, we bring it back to the hip as like a counterweight. Oh, my biceps are going to rebel. Don't do that, come on. Hasn't been getting older. Yep. I started taking Tai Chi with with my instructor for Eskrima, and let me tell you, much nicer. We're also a lot more warmed up, I think, usually. So this might be part of it. We tend to do a lot of warm-ups that involve kind of using our knees to bounce a little bit. And like right now, I'm putting zero force into my arms. I'm just trying to get them to come back up. It's basically the same thing you do on a swing. Alright, come on. Gotta get the blood flowing, otherwise you're prone to hurt yourself. Alright. So, take a one. It's a left turn, down block, and then a right punch. And then we turn the other way to a right down block facing that direction, followed by a left punch, followed by return to the center, down block, and then 3 face high punches. So the other ones are supposed to be at the solar plexus right here at where the ribs join up in the middle. There's a nice big bundle of nerves right there. You hit that, I mean, pretty much everybody's been hit there once. You will not be able to breathe for a little bit. Good news, I found out that you can actually breathe if you swallow. It'll allow you to get like, you know, a couple seconds where you can breathe in real quick, and then it goes back to that crushing sensation of your diaphragm spasming. Alright, from here, after the third one, you do a key up here, so you like expel a whole bunch of energy from your diaphragm and yell on that third hit. From here, we take our left leg and go backward, behind, and This is going to be a 270-degree turn into a down block. And then a punch. And then a down block. And then a punch. And then from here, we go back to the center. And 3 face-high punches. And then again, we want to do a 270 turn. So it takes our left rear leg and then basically just ends up 90 degrees behind us in the opposite direction. And then from here, again, down block, punch. Yep, that's solar plexus. Down block, punch. And return. Tego 2, I'm not going to do, but it's the exact same thing. The only difference is that as you're going up the middle, instead of face-high punches, you do up blocks. And then everything else is identical. Tego 3 is the first one where it's going to be different. Actually, I think in Tego 2, you do a down block and then a face-high punch on the sides instead of the solar plexus. So that's also different. Everybody teaches it just slightly different. With Tego 3, this is the first time where you play with the other stances. So there is a aggressive stance, which is Chongul. So generally, this is pretty deep, you're standing such that your knee is aligned with the tips of your toes. So basically, I can see the tip of my big toe over my knee, and that's about it. You don't want to be too lent too far in, otherwise you can't get back up, and you don't want to be too shallow, otherwise you leave your knee open for attack, and that's really bad news. And also it doesn't support anything. So when you're doing a deep chunkle stance like this is an aggressive stance. You're moving to strike, generally speaking. And from here, if you're this deep, it's also kind of hard to get momentum to move, because you're going to telegraph something real bad. So if I try to do a rear leg front kick, right, first of all, I didn't even get it off the ground that far, and secondly, somebody'd see that coming a mile away. So generally, if you're actually in a fight, you're going to be a lot closer here so that you can come off the ground real fast. Anyway, so we have our Chongul stance. We also have the Kima stance, which is also known as the horse stance, where you are standing like this, sideways, and you're going to typically use this for chops. It keeps you pretty stable this way, just unstable this way. So you're typically attacking somebody here. It's kind of a neutral stance, whereas a Chongul, again, attack stance. You're weak this way and that way, which is diagonal to where you're standing. Kima, you're strong straight on, and you're weak perpendicular. And then there's a Fugel stance, in which your back leg is 45 degrees that way, and your front leg is forward. In this case, we do have a little bit of room for our knee. Most of our weight is on the back leg, so if somebody were to try to attack my front knee, I can move that out of the way pretty quickly without having to worry too much. It's when you're really leaned in on this that you can't get yourself moving again. So the defensive stance ends up getting used for the first time in Tego 3. So this is a Fugel inside-out block to the left, followed by a punch, and same the other way, and then a down block to the center, and then here this is 3 face-high Kima punches. So very different. Alright, and because I have limited room, I'm just moving back. From here, we do the same turn, but I'm already facing this way, so it's not actually that far. I just have to turn 180 degrees. So we still take the left leg that away from behind, and then, nope, that's wrong. Okay. It's into a Fugel stance, just like over there. So we come this way, and we get a Fugel stance, and it should look more like that. And a punch. And a Fugel stance, and a punch. And a down block, Kima, Kima, Kima. Right, and then again, Fugel, and a punch. When you do the Fugel inside-out block followed by a punch, that's going back to a Chungul stance. So, attack. Yeah, we're gonna just start sweating here. It's all good. Yeah, thanks, Zach. Everybody's all right. You know, it's a little hard on mom naturally, because that's her dad and her aunt, and her other aunt passed a few years ago. So it's kind of a rough time, but at the same time, like, our entire family tends to live well into their 80s and 90s. So, like, my great-grandparents were around until 02 and 04, something like that. My great-grandfather said to my dad, you know, one great regret, I'll never see the Red Sox win the World Series. That was March 2004. Oh. He died in April. The Red Sox won the World Series in October. So naturally everybody's like, oh, must have had some influence. How's it going, Jamie Callis? Right, so Precalc. I mean, that doesn't seem realistic. Long day of programming, yeah. Nice. Any particular mathiness for today? Hmm. Okay. I'm gonna argue with myself for a bit. So we've got looking at my this is specifically okay. This is specifically looking at inverse functions dealing with the function types we've already talked about. I might want to shift that until after exponents and logs and just deal with, like, hey, we've seen pairs of functions. That'll be fine. Okay, so what we're looking at here really. Oh. Boo. 50 characters. Psh. Yeah. One-step addition, subtraction, yeah. What kind of, or what level of class is this? I forget. I think we've had this conversation before at some point, but... Algebra bait, yeah, okay. That, dump it here. Then we can say this is going to be unit 3. Special functions. I don't know exactly what days these are going to come up, but you know what? We don't have to be specific. No, okay. What is this? That's Laura. We're going to keep Laura. I don't know why you keep changing it. Yup. Yep, it's absolutely necessary to know the basics and to connect the fundamentals. So, good on you. I know I found it horribly boring to attempt to do like some of the earlier stuff, but that's because by that point I'd already taken calculus, and I was just like, ugh, This is so awful, but I didn't really get it. In terms of, like, reminder, students who are taking Algebra 1 have never seen this before, or likely have never seen this before. This concept is new to them, and, you know, you really need to understand it. And there's a lot of nuance that I think I was just missing. I still find it boring to, like, go back and look at some of the earlier stuff, but now I can kind of focus myself on, like, okay, we're not doing the problem. We're trying to, like, align all of the objectives in the background of this problem. Or, like, Peter Liliadol says, in hashtag not sponsored, building thinking classrooms, what we're really trying to look at is to create a series of steps, a series of problems that are going to be interesting to students, but at the same time aren't going to challenge them too much. So, for instance, in Chapter 9, there is a progression of quadratic equations, which looks like this. There we go. I know I was going to get the orientation right one of these days. So, those of you who can factor in your head real quick, right? Why would we end up doing something like this in this order? What is it that he's doing with these? So he starts with a quadratic that has all three terms are positive, then all three terms are positive, then all three terms are positive, then all three terms are positive, and then the final term is negative. The final term is negative. Both of the second and third are negative. Academy of Useless Ideas. You are definitely not that useless. Thank you very much for coming on in. Hey, Don, how's it going? Welcome into N-Simplex Pachinko. My name is Obi-Wan Pez. We are doing some math curriculum writing tonight. We were just talking about building thinking classrooms and the particular reason that Peter Liliadol would have built a lesson that looks like this in particular. This is factoring polynomials, you know, basic stuff. Why would it be that he would set them up in that order with that number of problems? Yeah, that number of problems in that order, in that sequence. Why is it that we're doing all that? So, the idea is that we're just changing one thing at a time. Every time that we do something, every time that we change something, we're just going to do one thing that's different. And hopefully that will, that's better, slightly. Order of operations to build a concept. Yeah, a little bit. Yes, it is definitely a skill, and I most certainly did not have it, like, in any of my 15 years, or at least the first 15 years of teaching. I was just kind of like, oh, let's throw some interesting problems together, because I was just sort of like almost bored with the conventional type problems, and there were some issues. I was not entirely doing my students a great service with a lot of the things that I did. I only really found out, you know, that this kind of systemic change here was going to be possible in 2022. So that is after I started streaming. You might actually, I just released let's see, on Nsimplex Pachinko. Oh, by the way, right? Haha. We can pop over our YouTube. So I am finally updating my YouTube channels because Twitch is going to delete all of my content otherwise. We are at Obi-Wan Pez for gaming content, and at Nsimplex Pachinko 6542 for math content. So if anybody wants to check those out, feel free and subscribe to one or both or neither. That's fine. And I am up to June 2024 in terms of placing stuff on there. I have limited myself to publishing 4 videos a day on Nsimplex Pachinko, and I have attempted on Obi-Wan Pez to align the certain games at like certain times. So I'm trying to upload at most 4 a day, and then if you're looking for like, you know, Final Fantasy VII content, it will always be at 9 a.m. or whatever I chose. So I have stuff scheduled out until... Actually, that's only the 5th, so that's... oh. That should be all of them then. Yep, that's all of them. Okay. So Nsimplex Pachinko is current in terms of... There's only one thing that I have like scheduled, and I dumped it to the end of the month because it's something from last month that was about to be deleted. I also did the same on Obi-Wan Pez, where here, yep, everything is current except the stuff that we did last month, which was going to be deleted. So I like did a quick download and uploaded it and said, put it at the 31st of May. And then I'll correct it back. Nested fractions is the concept of canceling out when it's possible to do so. Whole simple factors. Yep. Yep. And why all of that works that way, right? Because that's the one... That's the thing that, like, so many people don't understand, is why things work the way they work. You know, it didn't do the thing, but it's alright. I'm also trying to work pretty soon on getting some proper channel alerts. I'm having some problems with editing video, so I'll try and get that up as soon as I can. But I'm intending on getting a few items from Square One TV, which was my favorite show growing up. Very mathematically oriented. It was the exploits of the mathematical division of the LAPD and NYPD, respectively, in certain seasons. Starring Joe Howard. If you don't know who Joe Howard is, you probably do, and you might be like, oh yeah, that guy. So Joe Howard was in multiple movies. I think he was a pharmacist in Groundhog Day. Maybe. He was a pharmacist at some point. I think it was Groundhog Day. He was in Square One TV, and he's been doing a bunch of like little character actor cameo roles here and there, which like nobody knows who he is except people who watch Square One TV. I also listened to a taped interview with him from a few years ago. That was really fun. So I like that. Being able to go back. It was also from somebody who was like a fan of Square One TV back in the day. So she asked really good questions. So yeah, Square One TV was kind of a math variety show for kids on PBS. Um, and it had like skits and things like that, music videos. Then the last 15 minutes were devoted to MathNet, which was a riff on Dragnet. The idea was that there was this detective division, again, within the LAPD and NYPD. Joe Howard was George Franklin, and his partner was Kate Monday, and then when he moved to New York, it became Pat Tuesday. Riff on Joe Friday from Dragnet. I wouldn't blame anybody if they have never heard or seen of this stuff. It's all like 70s, you know. Old timers like me. But my kids love it. I put it on occasionally, and they're like, what is this? Right. So in addition, we are also doing GOtEL, game on to end lupus. Few of our other streamer friends, 8BitD, Coco Confession, and LBell, are running the campaign during the month of May to try to raise money for Game On to End Lupus. And you can go and click my link over in the... That way? That way. No, that way. Over in the chat. Or that way, if you're on mobile. And you can click my link to donate to my stuff. I have rewards that will punish me. Mostly like hot stuff and extra workouts. So, if you're interested in punishing me, and you have the means to do so, feel free and donate there. If you would rather donate to one of the other streamers, you know, you can go find them on Twitch. There are 160 people who are running campaigns of some kind or another. The goal is $205,000 total. And, there we go. I do have the campaign up. I have put in a modest $200 goal. I Is that me? Nope, 250. Okay. I put in a modest $250 goal. The event with everybody, all 160 some odd streamers running this thing, has raised $111,570.85, which is unbelievable because it's only May 5th. we're more than halfway, so congratulations anybody who has donated to anybody across the entire campaign. Every dollar helps. Lupus is an autoimmune disease which can affect literally anybody. Most of the time it kind of hides as other diseases, and it takes forever to get a diagnosis because people then have to hop from diagnosis to diagnosis and say, like, okay, well, what are the easier things that are easy to treat? Let's see if it's just that. And oftentimes person with lupus can go months or even years without a diagnosis properly. Being an autoimmune disease, it means that their immune system is fighting themselves, and as such it can affect any particular system in their body. 8BitD typically has neurological problems because her lupus attacks her nervous system. Coco Confession, her lupus is attacking her heart and lungs for the most part. And LBell is still waiting on a diagnosis, but is pretty certain that's what it is. So all three of them in particular have been struggling with some sort of autoimmune disorder, and they're, again, eventually Dee and Coco found out, yeah, it's lupus, and Ellie is waiting on her diagnosis. So, the United States NSF, National Science Foundation, was getting potentially close to like a few new medications and possibly other treatments to help to minimize some of the damage that lupus does. Unfortunately, the National Science Foundation's budget has been slashed quite a bit. So we went from essentially having like a few things on the horizon to like we don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. So the donations are going to the Lupus Foundation of America, or LFA. They are a fairly transparent charity organization and send out all sorts of information in terms of like where the money is actually going. Dee, Coco, and Ellie have done a really good job of getting also the people from LFA involved in the community stuff that they're doing. So you can kind of put names to faces and or names to voices as they did Goose Goose Duck? What's the whatever that game was. Not Duck Duck Goose, I know. So, they've been working on some cool stuff. Again, every dollar helps. If you're at all interested, QR code's up there, or you can go to one of their streams and get something cool, potentially. So, there's going to be a lot of stuff for the entire month. Hope to see you guys around at those locations as well. Okay. So anyway, we're going to look at this, and we're going to say that we've got higher order polynomials. The next thing that we want to do... Nope. Okay. Yeah, all right. Okay, so days 10, 11. We're gonna look at. It's not real. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Seriously. This thing desperately wants to go back to Laura, or back to Ariel. Okay. So we're going to then have all right, so we get our loop in here. We say that for rational functions, right, what are the functions? So we're going to define it as a quotient of polynomial functions. We'll do function operation transformation, which again are going to look at our parent functions. these are not going to have intercepts, however they will have asymptotes. Alright, this is where we see domain of range especially popping up as an important factor, because now we're going to get domain restrictions. We're going to look at the symmetry of the parent functions. We're going to look at, again, function properties is in the next one, so we're not going to worry about that too much right there. Cause you anxiety or bob your head along and happen. Yeah, well. I resolved that I was going to do Khan Academy starting, you know, all the way at the beginning, and then just work through everything to see how everything was going, and work on so I'm looking at doing stuff with Common Core and try to explain like what actually is Common Core, and Sal has done a good job of getting his teams to align to the Common Core curricula. And they have like all of the objectives posted everywhere. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And I resolved that I would not use a calculator pretty much at all. And then even then it was like, just use the one on the site. You know, that's my second rule. So I definitely get the slight anxiety when I was getting into stuff that, like, I know how to do it, right? It's obvious, it's easy enough, but you can easily make a mistake. Especially if you're not actually writing it down, if you're not actually taking that time. I was doing mostly mental math just to get through it. But yeah, there were a couple of those mastery quizzes that just completely flattened me, because it was like, oh, forgot a sign, or you forgot a, you know, entered the wrong number, or decimal place was in the wrong place. I'm just like, right. Mm-hmm. We get parent functions up there. Okay. Yeah. In order to solve equations and inequalities using rational functions, I'm going to typically solve an equation and then do a number line. Number line with test values. The other option is you go with multiplicity. So if you have an initial value, it locks that particular location in place, and then all of the multiplicities of zeros and of your vertical asymptotes are going to tell you where this graph is going to go. So you can actually do a quick sketch of where all these functions exist. Right, so this is already right, functions, operations, and transformations. We're already talking about the symmetry. We're already talking about how to shift them around. So the important part is going to be like so when we're graphing, we're going to use the initial value multiplicities of zeros and asymptotes in order to sketch an approximation of any sort of rational function. Our goal here is basically we're going to have the whole thing done out, and then we're going to just sort of read what the properties are and be able to throw them into whatever arrangement we need to. So if you have odd multiplicities of asymptotes, then you know you're going to have this sort of behavior. Or the other way, but you know what I mean. You know, you're going to have this sort of behavior. If you have even asymptotic multiplicities, then you're either going to have this one or that one going down. And then the same thing happens with the zeros, is that our zeros, if they are odd multiplicities, will cross through and have either a positive then a negative, or a negative then a positive. Whereas if you have even multiplicity, this will come from a negative region and return to a negative region, or start from a positive region and return to a positive region. So we'll do plenty of examples of those as we go through, but that'll be the idea. So we got the symmetry, we've got how this all works. Pattern. So we did this on one of our last few streams. I graphed a transformed rational function, which ended up having, like, we could do it as just a rational function, or we could divide out pieces to get it into transformation form. So when we moved it into transformation form, that's when we had this pattern where we said if you multiply your x distances by a certain amount, then it's also going to divide your y distances by the same amount. So because we had a parent function of y equals 1 over x, if we end up with y equals 1 over x squared, then every time you double your x distance, you're going to cut your y distance in half squared, or fourths. So it ends up being a lot sharper when you have a higher exponent. Okay, so ads are about to start, and I'm going to go and run and get my water refilled, and maybe a small snack or something. We'll be right back. Patient, good evening and welcome. Welcome back, I suppose. If anybody does have any questions, please go ahead and ask them, and I'll take a look when I get back. And otherwise, we're going to be doing like curriculum development, so let me know what you're interested in. All right, see you in a few minutes. Thank you.
We used to be solid, not falling apart. Things never not okay when you were mine. You used to be honest, not pulling my heartstrings. Every other day you change your mind. Cause when you're high, you call me like I'm lonely. Some kind of little toy for you to wind up when you land in bed and feeling lonely. I'm tired of being deployed like that. Getting busier and busier, so disorientated. First you want me, then you're busy. Girl, it's not that complicated. Got me tied up in a leash and running. You got me running in a circle. I'm just trying to find my way back to you. What happened to us? Round in a circle. Back where I started, I'm stuck in like glue. You keep me on a loop. I'm just trying to find my way back to you. What happened to us? Round in a circle. Back where I started, I'm stuck in like glue. You keep me on loop. I used to respect you, thought I was enough. Yeah, feels like half a century ago. Guess you keep coming back after telling me off, without even fitting sorry between goodbye and hello again. Thought we could grow again, how about no again, again and again. I'm trying to tell you we can't be friends, struggling to comprehend that we broke up and ended again and again and again. And I'm getting busier and busier, so disorientated. First you want me, then you're busy. Girl, it's not that complicated. Got me tied up in a leash and running. You got me running in a circle. I'm just trying to find my way back to you. What happened to us? Round in a circle. Back where I started, I'm stuck in like glue. You keep me on a loop. I'm just trying to find my way back to you. What happened to us? Round in a circle. Back where I started, I'm stuck in like glue. You keep me on loop. Yeah, when you're high, you call me like I'm lonely. Some kind of little toy for you to wind up when you lie in bed and feeling lonely. I'm tired of being deployed like all I am to use a pet. You think you own me? I'm nothing but a boy for you to wind up when you wanna pretend to get to know me. You got me running in a circle. I'm just trying to find my way back to you. What happened to us? Round in a circle. Back where I started, I'm stuck in like glue. You keep me on a loop. I'm just trying to find my way back to you. What happened to us? Round in a circle. Back where I started, I'm stuck in like glue.
Righto. And we're back. Hope everybody had a good break. Again, if anybody has any questions, let me know. Domain restrictions. In order to get our horizontal asymptotes, right? Then, generally speaking, people will compare degrees. Upper division math of robotics programming. So if we just want simple programming, if we're talking like Python type stuff, right, then you're going to want at least some algebra. Like trig could help, but I don't think it's always 100% necessary. So with that one, Jamie, absolute value really is for, actually, patient, this might apply to you too. Absolute value is really for distances. So if you want to get a distance, you don't care about what direction it is in. If you're like querying, you know, what's the distance to a certain object, then or what's the distance to the nearest object, then you're going to want to compare same things to same things, right? So you've got to say, okay, I want to compare distances and I don't care what direction they're in, because it may very well attempt to try to find some sort of comparison in like directions. And generally speaking, you don't want to do that. My family saved me some cake. So nice. So yeah, math modeling usually has, it's basically an applied math class, right? So it wants to say like what So it also depends on what level it is. So if you're talking like it is a college level class, then generally speaking, it has a lot of stuff that's going to be helpful to people who are going into like an applied math field or engineering, maybe physics. Mechanical and non-mechanical models such as population dynamics, methods including vector algebra, differential equations, calculus. I'm looking at the Open University one. This is, of course, England, so. Calculus including several variables as well as vector calculus, so we're talking Calc 3 in the United States. Matrices, methods for three-dimensional problems, and numerical methods. So, yeah, you really need to be able at that point to if that's the sort of thing that is in that curriculum, you'd at least need to have solved or taken probably a differential equations class in the past, or be ready to take a differential equations class, as well as have seen vector calculus. Usually in order to take those, you have to take Calculus 2, which is integration methods. So we do a lot of Calc 2 here on this channel, because it leads directly into differential equations as well. Very helpful. Nope, yep, Open University. Nice. I was on MST 210. So 124. Nice, nice. Yep, that was where I was teaching. So, right at the community college level, getting students prepped and ready to go off to a 4-year, if they were going. And there were a lot who were. Yeah, and super interested students were also really impactful on teachers. I was actually really happy when somebody would challenge me on stuff, because it got me to think harder and be like, okay, well, either obviously I did not explain it well, or there is a different way of thinking about it that I have not discovered yet. I know a lot of teachers get in that mode where they're just like, I just want to teach like the way I'm doing, and I don't need to worry about other methods, other ways of thinking. I just can't get in with that. Mm-hmm. I'm always amused. My children cannot eat this cake without ending up wearing half of it, I swear. And 125. Essential topics like proof, yeah, differential equations, mechanics, discrete mechanics. Extend knowledge of calculus and applications. Also use mathematical software and learn how to typeset mathematics. Ooh. Learn LaTeX. That'd be pretty nice. Set up for it locally, yeah. Mm-hmm. That would be wonderful. I ended up getting MicTech, I think, was the one that I got on my Windows box. Haven't actually set up any Linux or any of the tech stuff on my Linux box. Which, I mean, I guess is kind of too bad, but at the same time, I haven't ended up writing anything, so it doesn't really matter. Well, yeah, it may help to actually write my teaching notes or notes to students in that. Okay. For this one, right, we had our domain restrictions. We also have the horizontal asymptote, which is defined by okay, we do the horizontal asymptote by degree comparison by division. So we could just do the long division or do the synthetic division of all of the individual terms if we have any. And we could figure out where the horizontal asymptote is. Got it sorted so it generates PDFs, gives you live view and split screen. Nice. Yeah. Automatic and instantaneous compiling is probably one of the most awesome things. Okay, I have not actually not actually looked up, like, where do rational functions come from? I mean... Encyclopedia of Math.org. Looks like it's put on by Springer, in the European Mathematical Society. This is quite possibly the meanest thing I've ever done, but... Nope, not that. Paste without formatting. Boo. Oh, there you go. So Pette approximants, for anybody who hasn't watched that number file video or done it here on the channel. Basically, you take a Taylor series and you set it equal to a rational function with all blank coefficients, and then you solve the system of equations that comes out of that. It's hard. Usually requires linear algebra and a knowledge of at least Calc 2, because it requires Taylor series. But more or less, in a precalculus setting, what I'm doing is I'm laying the foundation and saying that, oh, by the way, there are these things that we can do called Pette approximants, where we are going to assume that we can find a rational function, which will make as good a prediction at whatever function we have as a Taylor series, or a series of, like, a nth degree polynomial, however big we want it to be. That we can get a better approximation by doing a rational function instead. So one way we could do this is come up with a... I'm kind of a fan of using natural log for this, because there's no way in hell that you can end up with there's absolutely no way in hell that you can end up with a, like, perfect value for this. But something like, you know, y is approximately equal to... that's not going to work. Hey, Punching. Good. We're doing alright here. Got a few things going on. So right now we're just looking at precalculus curriculum and trying to decide how we can fit in Pette approximants. Which is, I will admit, a Calc 2 and higher topic. However, I don't think this works. Yeah, no. We need... oh. So let's see. We do this instead. So in number 2, we add a table. And we say that we're going to do like -7, -6. And then here we say that this is going to be f of -7. Yeah, cool. F of -6. F of -5. Okay, seriously. Just copy. Oop, nope. Not like that. Don't do that. Okay, and we switch this to -4, 3, 2, -1, 0. That is not what I meant either. Wait. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. All right. Good luck, Jamie. Have a good night. Get some good sleep. Woo. So here, when we have like a bunch of points, all right, pretend that this doesn't exist. What we're going to do is we're going to try to get a Taylor series, first of all. Taylor series for a natural log. Is 1 plus x. So this is going to be natural log of, no, that's not it. Jeez. Okay, so this is going to be 1 plus parentheses x squared plus 1. So x squared plus 1 is going to be inserted a lot. So we're going to copy that. The natural log of 1 plus x is equal to x, so that's this term, minus this squared over, nope, over 2. Okay, terrible approximation so far. Plus x to the third over 3. Okay, so this is just averaging or alternating series. This to the fourth, and then increasing both the exponent and the denominator by 1 every time. Okay. It's gonna take a while. Oops, that should be over 4. Okay, plus this to the fifth over 5 minus this to the 6th over 6. Jeez. Plus this to the 7th over 7. Maybe this was a bad example to pick. take so long for this to actually converge. Okay, so let's do it this way. We're gonna see if we can't come up with some. Nice. Okay, N, let's do instead K, because that's just where my head's at. It's going to go from 1 to N, where N equals, let's do 8. Okay, it's going to be a -1 to the K minus 1. K minus 1 times X to the K over K. Okay. Way easier way to do this. Right, so we get this nice series, which is going to show us what we're going to get if we keep increasing the value. This is going to go from 1 to, let's say, 100, and go from there. So if we have 8 terms, this is basically where we were already. And then if we keep increasing this, really? Man. But I thought it was supposed to get better. Is there a bound on natural log? Alternating signs. It was x squared plus 2 originally, yeah? Yeah. It may be that this is only valid over a small domain, in which case, right, technically yes. But it's supposed to approximate all possible values. Oh, yep, radius is 1. Yep. It's only supposed to actually be accurate within that region from... Alright, let's do... You know what? Screw it. Let's do a cosine instead. Alright. This is what this is going to look like. Ideally. So, what's going to happen is instead of this, now the cosine is going to be... Alright, so we need an x raised to the 2k, and this is not going to be this anymore. This is going to be x squared plus 2. And this is no longer k, this is going to be 2k parentheses factorial. I can already see that that's not going to work. Man, what is going on?
control of the party. From ad-free listening to offline downloads, you can make every day and every place
Oh,
a
alternating.
personal DJ set.
Right.
Tune into 3 free months now.
Well, that would do it. This is just going to be K. -1. Ooh, gross. Oh, there we go. A. And it starts from 0. Oop. $13. There we go. Alright, so when we start from 1, we have a cosine, which is not a good approximation for this thing. Right? This is actually, for a k equals 0, this is going to be... Raising this to 0 should just be equal to 1. Well, that's rather interesting. Oh, wait. N is 1, so that's 2 terms. Okay. Yeah. We're good. Okay. So we get k equals 0 and k equals 1. Then as we start increasing, notice that the values start getting better in terms of approximating how much of the function it is approximating. So here you can see that after, what is that, 20-ish, we now have pretty much identical values going all the way out to -3-ish. Right, when it first starts becoming really kind of noticeable is about here. It's pretty close to -3.6. So, like, overall, that's a pretty good approximation function. And again, here we only need, 7 terms to be able to go out to, not quite to go out to -2 and +2. There we go. 8, right? If we take 8 terms and we want to compare the values that we get for this point here. Right, so 0.96017 versus 0.97464 for the model seems pretty reasonable. It's within 1/100th on something that's pretty close to 1. So we're getting an approximate error 1.5%. Not too bad. And then, if we want to take Pade approximants, what we're doing here is we're saying, okay, P of x is going to be equal, no, hang on. P of x sub 1 is going to be approximately equal to, and then here we just start loading up on stuff. Why, hello, G. Peppadino. Oh, Lupe. Yeah, no problem. And thank you very much for running the campaign. So, hope you all are having a good day. Everybody, say hi. We're doing math stream tonight, so talking a bit about Taylor series and something called a Pade approximant. So if you're a fan of Numberphile, you might have seen something on it before. There we go. So not exactly gaming on, but you know, that's what the rest of the week's for. So anyway, we have our donation links to anybody who wants those. And no, that's all I have. Okay. So what we do in this particular case is we can say here we want a polynomial of a certain size. So we can say like, we could even do, I think we can do this as a sum. From 0 to, hang on, j to m. Sum, we go from, as k goes from 0 to n. Oh, we don't want to do that. Hang on. Right, so then m equals this, n equals this, and then we get, again, like, you know, somewhat decent approximations for this stuff. So for our polynomials, we're going to want like a sub j times x to the j. I don't know if this works. A sub k times x. No, that's not going to work. That's too bad. X may not be used. Oh, right. So that's sub 1. Sub 1. Yeah. Okay, so let's scrap the sum idea anyway, but what we can do is just manually type it in. So we're going to go with a sub 0 plus a sub 1x plus a sub 2 x sub 1. Oh, that's going to be annoying. X sub 1. Let's keep it quadratic just cuz. Alright, and then in the denominator what we do is we're going to assume that the first one, our b0, is just going to be 1 so that we can prevent any division by 0. So we'll never end up with division by 0 like that. Alright, so we have to have something in the denominator. Plus b sub 1 x sub 1 Is it? Should be F. Is that a thing? Yeah, that's a thing. Okay, good. Right. So our residuals here end up being plotted as Like, what's the difference between these values? So in this particular case, we've got a difference of 0.054. It's pretty good overall. This one is not printing, though. That's interesting. So y sub 1. Hey, there we go. Okay, so let's highlight this in... purple's terrible. Orange, green. Right. So as you can see, doing a quadratic over a linear function is quite terrible. It does not approximate our sine function or cosine function whatsoever. So, understandably, we don't like this very much. So here, if we then add b sub 2 x squared x1 squared, I'm gonna keep doing that. Right, still terrible, but in this particular case, you actually see that the part down at the bottom there is, you know, making a it's almost like a cosecant essentially. So it's making this part that's going like this and then going down. It's at least a like somewhat decent approximation. It gets these 4 points exactly, and like the curve itself is not outlandish in that area between -1 and 1. It's still a bad approximation, but it is better than it could have been. So then we add another term to the top, so this is going to be like a sub 3 x to the third, x1 to the third. Again, not great. Plus b sub 3 x sub 1 to the third. I would argue that's worse. Actually, let's see. Okay, so that has a 0.48 r squared, whereas the other one had a 0.6 something. 0.644. So, overall, the regression factor for it is a little bit better. If we do the same for another term, so b sub 4 x to the fourth, x1. All right, now we can see that over on the right-hand side, we're getting this like big wobbly bit here, which is starting to get us much closer in at least the like more local respects. All right, and then we got b sub 5 x sub 1 to the fifth. Right, our r squared value for this one is 0.7339. So again, significantly better within certain regions. And plus b sub 6 x sub 1 to the 6th power. Right, r squared is 0.8287. Again, it keeps increasing better and better and better as we go. As we get further and further out, it is just flattening because it is a rational function still. So there's nothing really we can change about that. But most of the other stuff has at least points that sort of make sense for the points we're supposed to have. I need to turn off residuals. Boo. Oof. At some point, this becomes overfit. It's just going to be kind of obvious, like, yeah, of course it's going to fit just because you've got, like, you know, ridiculous, oops, got a ridiculous degree on it. Right, so as we increase our degree on the top, now we see other parts that are going to start coming in. Certain things get more and more accurate, and the overall statistics keeps getting better. So even though some of these numbers are absolutely ridiculous, most of the time we'd be finding this by calculator anyway. We've done a few examples by hand, and it gets to be maybe slightly scary. So yeah, I'm actually worried about overfitting on this. That it might be like, okay, well, you know, we're good to be able to, like, get it exactly on the points that you want it on. But then, like, the rest of the points in the entire function are just, like, thrown off. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Oh, man. Okay. So in terms of what we have for rational functions, right? I was looking up historical context. I got distracted apparently. All right. Encyclopedia of Mathematics. Boo. Have to be subscribed to the MAA. Doesn't surprise me though. Yeah, I'm not actually seeing any, like, history, which is slightly sad. Mac Tudor History might have something at St. Andrews. Alright. It's just after midnight here. So, I think we are going to raid on over before the ad break starts. Dr. Gold is currently doing a tutoring session, so if you have any questions, you can always forward him what question it is that you're working on. And we will be back on Wednesday. And one more time, I will be out this Friday and next Monday for family. Well, I'm going on a trip to meet my family back in the United States. So we're going to see you all again Wednesday and then next week. So good luck, everybody. My name's Obi-Wan Pez. This is Enziplex Pachinko, and let's go check out Dr. Gold at Actual Education. Thanks so much.